As always, sketching is a critical part of making anything good that you want to work on. So make sure that you're drawing and you're sketching, and you go ahead and make a selection and take a photograph of that. Once you've sketched your idea and photographed it, now it's time to start creating your character in Moho. First, we want to make sure that we're organized. So I have a folder here with several subfolders. I'm going to be placing my file in an animation folder here. However you want to organize, as long as you're organized, that's okay. And I've also named my folder for_character. So I'm going to start Moho. I'm on a Mac here, so it's going to look a little different, but this should be the same software. Moho comes in two different versions, a Pro and a Debut, which we have both. You're going to see a window similar to mine. You might have some little pop-up windows, but I'm going to make sure that you can see my folder over here and then my window over here. Just some basics. This area right here is going to be your canvas. This area here is going to be your timeline. You have tools over here. You have palettes over here. And you have a menu system here. Very, very similar to most software. You can move these around if you like. You cannot. You can detach them, but I wouldn't recommend that. We're going to start a new project. So File New, or Command End, or Control N. Sorry, Command N on a Mac. And you get this untitled. Now, if your program starts with a startup file, you can close it and start a new one, or you can play with that one. That's fine. If you don't want that to happen, you're going to go to the preferences file. So your guys' preferences are going to be in a different place, which we'll talk about in class. But you would find your preferences, Command or Control, comma, and then right here you would say, okay, startup file. You can choose. You can say, you know, default startup or no document, which is what I do. So that way it starts up with nothing. Okay, so right now we have a new document, and let's go ahead and save it. File, save. And I'm going to find my folder. So on my desktop, I have for character, and then I'm going to put it in my animation folder, and I'm going to name it for_character. And save. The .moho is an extension. Do not change that at all. You don't want to change that. Anytime you see an extension, leave that alone. Only change the numbers or letters beforehand. Save. If I open my folder, I should be able to find it. Animation, there it is. So I can open it from there anytime. Okay, another thing to check is your project settings. You can set any frame rate and any canvas size that you like. You're going to go to File, Project Settings, and we want to make sure that there's a couple of things that are set. It should be an HD version, 1920 by 1080. Those are the pixels. So we got 1920 pixels wide and 1080 pixels tall. Frame rate for this project, for this character, is going to be 12 frames per second. You can also set a start and an end frame. Just leave that. That's fine. There's all sorts of other stuff here that we can mess with, but that's all we need to be concerned about. And hit OK. Next, we're going to import our image as a tracing image. First, you need to download it to your computer somehow. It can't be in your email. It's got to be on your computer. I've placed mine inside of my ideas folder, and there it is right there. So the way you do this is you go to View, select Tracing Image, and you find your tracing image right there, and you open it. And it's going to place it inside of on your screen. It's going to be semi-transparent, and you can't move it around. If you want to hide that, you can toggle Show Tracing Image. These keyboard shortcuts are going to be really handy. So Control or Command U, you can hide it and show it. This is just going to be for my reference. I'm really not going to trace over it, but you can do that if you like. Okay, next we're going to start drawing our character. In the Layers palette, I want you to rename this Layer 1. You can just single click on it. Let's see, we can double click on it, or we should be able to single click slowly on it. There we go. And name it Body. It's important that you keep your layer names very organized, otherwise you're going to have a hard time identifying what is what. Okay, we're going to make a new shape right here, the shape drawing tool, or S, and we're going to draw a square. Okay, I'm going to hide my tracing image for now. When you're drawing a square, you can hold Shift. The Transform Points tool will move the entire shape. Okay, and let's kind of center it. You got handles all over the place. You can also rotate it. On the corners you can scale, and on the sides you can scale horizontally or vertically. So this box, this widget, can do all sorts of stuff. What I want you to do is I want you to hold down the Command or Control button, and we're going to scale. I'm going to press probably Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, and I'm going to make a trapezoid. You can also hit Escape to get out of any edit. If you want to, you can pull points separately. Let's say you want to just bring this guy in. I'm pressing Shift so the points come in straight over. So make yourself a trapezoid. It doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. Okay, I'm going to select my entire shape and make it a little bigger and kind of position it how I want it. Okay, there are two aspects to this shape. It has a stroke, which is the outline, and a fill, which is the inside. I want to change both of those. The color over here will change this, but you have to do one thing. You have to select the shape. We don't have the shape selected right now. We are just manipulating points. So that's a little weird about this program. You have to use another tool in order to fill things and color things. So I actually have to click on this and select it. If yours shows up like this with a checkerboard pattern, that's fine. That means it's selected. If you don't like what that looks like, you can uncheck this, just have a red box. I like the red box because it's easier to see what's going on. You have a fill and a stroke, and what I like to do is just take my little eyedropper and pick a color. So I'm going to pick like orange for the fill, and I'm going to bring this guy down and pick maybe pink for the outline. And you can do whatever you like, doesn't matter. Okay, I can also increase the stroke width. So right now it's at 6. What if I went to 12 and hit Tab? Maybe go 20, Tab, make it nice and thick. I'm not sure I like that color. Let's try that color. So you can tweak it however you want. Okay, so there's the body. Next we're going to make eyes. So in your layers palette, you're going to make a new vector layer. And it starts with it ready for you to name it. So I'm going to call this eyes whites. You can adjust this to reveal everything. There's also a preference for that. If you go to, I believe it's, where is it at? Oh, under layers and objects, auto size name column. So I would definitely have that checked. But anyway, we're going to name that. There's nothing on there, so we need to draw some new artwork. I'm going to select my shapes again, and up here, I'm going to pick a different shape. I'm going to pick an oval. Okay, so this is going to draw an oval with the last color combination that we had. So it's going to use the same pink stroke and orange fill. That's okay. I'm going to kind of get this how I think I want it. I'm going to copy and paste it. Control C, Control V, and I'm going to paste it. So now I have two ovals. You can copy and paste as much as you like. All right. Next, I'm going to press Q or select shape. Click on both by pressing Shift. Now I have two shapes selected, and I'm going to change the color of both of them at the same time. I can also go down here and left click for fill, and I can right click for stroke. So that's another way to do it. But I actually want to just turn the stroke off. I don't want a stroke on the eye layer. Okay. I have a, if I wanted to select them both, let's see if I grab the transform points tool and I press Command, and I can move them both at the same time. Okay. I'm going to make another layer, another vector layer, and this one's going to be called eyes pupils. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw some, whoa, green, huh? You can make these look however you like. What I want to do is I want to kind of keep my color combinations, so I'm going to make one eye look really good, and then I'm going to copy all of that eye. So again, Q, select my shape. I don't want it to have a stroke, but I do want it to have a fill. I want it to be pink. And then I'm going to make a little highlight. I'm going to copy and paste that. And I'm going to make this one. I'm going to select my shape and make that white. So it's kind of like a shiny part. So these two things right here are going to make up the pupil. Command select, copy, paste. All right. And you can put these kind of wherever you like. Something like that. Okay, so now we have eyes. The next tool we're going to use is the freehand tool. And if you had a drawing tablet, this would be really, really fun, but we don't. We only have one, so if you want to try it out, that's fine, but make a new layer. Notice I'm putting everything on a new layer. I'm going to call this hair. And you can make this look however you want to. So this is the freehand tool, or F, and it's basically you kind of paint with it. So first, I'm going to set up my paint to be, it's by the stroke of it. I want that to be the same pink. Probably don't want it to be so thick, so I'm going to say 10 and hit tab and then try it out. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to just kind of paint some hair up there. If you don't like that, undo. Try it again. Okay. If you want to modify that, if you get your select transform points tool, now we can see some things are gonna happen here. So if I go in and I click the end point here, I get handles just like in Illustrator. So that's familiar. It's kind of a little hard to control. They just kind of came out with this option. So that's a way to manipulate the points after you've painted them. So something like that. If you wanted to, this actually might be beneficial. So I'm going to close this shape. Right now it's open, and sometimes you want the shape to be closed. All I would need to do is grab my Add Points tool, go to the end of my shape, drag a line to the other end of the shape, and press Enter or Return. Okay, it closes the shape, and then it fills it as well. So we're gonna tweak this a little bit. I'm gonna go to my Transform Points tool. I'm gonna grab this guy here, and I'm gonna kind of move that back to where it was. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple other things. I want the fill to be this orange. Okay, and then I don't want this line right here, so you can hide edges, which is really sweet. H, and I'm just gonna hide this edge. There we go. Gotta get exactly on the line. So it's still there, it's still closed, but the edge is hidden. So that's really neat. Now we have some hair. If you wanted to go through, maybe, add some smaller lines, you can do whatever you want here. I'm just gonna put some kind of strands, whatever you want his hair to look like. I think that looks pretty cool. Okay, so we have hair. You could put a ribbon or a hat or something on this character's head, however you want, but it's a separate layer. There we go, we got hair. Next we're gonna make a mouth. All right, there are so many mouths you can make, but we're gonna make one that has basically 3 lines to it. Again, new vector layer. I'm gonna call this mouth something like grin, because what if I make more, I would want to label them. Okay, so I go to my Add Points tool. I'm just gonna draw a straight line across. If I press Shift, it's gonna be a straight line, and then I let go of my mouse first. All right, so there's no color there. If you ever run into this situation, there's no color, you press P or the paint bucket tool, and then you click on the line and it'll add the color to it. So that's a little weird. Yeah. If I want to add a line or a point to this, A for Add Points tool, and I just add a point. I can then press T or Transform Points tool and pull this down. If I wanted that to curve a little bit, press C for curvature right here, and I'm going to pull the line out a bit, and then you can manipulate each one if you want to. Just a little bit of a grin. Sometimes the ends get kind of weird, so you might have to pull those as well, but basically you just pull that out. All right, next I want the ends to be a little thicker, like this part and this part, but I want the center to be the same. There's this other tool called the width tool, line width, or W. So I can go to any point, and I can make that part of the point thicker. So kind of make the ends thicker. I'm going to grab my select points tool. I'm going to select all my points. You can also do that with the transform points tool and press command to get all the points, but sometimes it's nice to just be selecting points. I'm going to copy and paste. It adds a new shape right on top of the last one. I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to scale it down. And I'm going to position it like the corners of the mouth. Something like that. Okay, so rotate it how you like. You can also manipulate the points however you want to make it look. Make sure to zoom in so you can see the detail. Okay, I'm going to select that shape. It's kind of tricky to select it, but you got to select it so there's a box. Copy, paste. Come over here. I'm just bringing it over, pressing the shift button. There's another nice little option right here. If you have something selected, you can flip it horizontally. You can also flip it vertically. So just to kind of make a mouth, something like that. I can select all the points and then go to my transform points tool and make it bigger, smaller, position it however you want to. Just get it how you like it. You can spend all day making mouths, so don't spend too long. Just try to get something there. There we go. We have a mouth and a grin. Next, we want to make some arms and legs. So we're going to come down to the bottom of the torso. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call this left arm. And I'm going to make the arm that's on the left side of the screen. Some people actually reverse it, so it's up to you. But as long as you have a system, go for it. I'm going to grab the Add Points tool, and I'm going to draw straight down, pressing Shift to make sure that it holds to vertical. And I'm going to draw another section straight down. So it should have 3 points. You could also add a point to the middle of a line segment. Pressing P, coloring the layer. Q, I'm going to grab the, I'm going to select the shape, make sure that it's the right color. Then I'm going to increase. I'm going to use my, my scroll wheel and increase the width. Something like that. I'm going to use the width tool again and kind of increase the width of the hand right here. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange where this arm is. I don't like that I can see it in the body, so I'm actually going to click and drag this all the way down below the body, so you can rearrange things. And now the body is above the arm, and it's basically hiding that little section. I'm going to try a new button here. This is the duplicate layer. And I'm going to name that right arm. Using my transform points tool, I'm going to select the layer and just drag it over, pressing Shift, and put it in approximately the same place, but on the other side of the body. Okay. Next, I'm gonna duplicate this again. I'm going to call this right leg. And I'm just going to bring it over, I don't know, probably towards the middle. And I'm going to increase the length of this thing. Pressing W. All the points are selected, so I can increase the width of the legs all together, or all the points together. If I press Escape and then I come in and just do 1 point at a time, you can do that. However you think it should look. And I'm going to duplicate that again and go left leg. Transform points tool, and then drag this over. Something like that. Once you're done drawing, the next step is to rig a character. And rigging basically means you're going to set some controllers to help move all of the artwork that you've just drawn. We have all of these layers that we need to move, and we need some controllers to do that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to put all of these layers in a special folder. So I'm going to click the first one, press Shift, and click the last one. That will select the layers in between. And then I can either right click or I can go to this Add Layer button, and I'm going to go Group with Selection. That puts all of those layers in a folder, and it's waiting for you to name it. So you can name it whatever you want to. I'm going to go with character. This is just a folder. There's nothing really special about it right now until we right-click on it and go to Convert to Bone. This is now a special layer that we can add controls to. So all of the things underneath inside the folder can be controlled by these bones that we're going to add to it. Okay, you can only add bones to a bone folder or bone layer. If I haven't said it already, make sure that you're on frame 0 when you're doing any drawing or adding bones or anything like that. Frame 0 is a place where you're going to be doing all of your setup. You're not going to be animating. Once you start moving out into all of the other frames, then you're going to start animating. So just know that frame 0 is for setup, frame anything else is for animation. Notice when I go to frame 0, the entire frame turns red. So it's a warning that you're on frame 0. We have some new tools here for adding bones and all sorts of other ones that we'll get to when we start animating. Pressing A, I will go to the Add Bone tool, and I first want to add a controller right in the middle of this guy's body. I'm going to click and drag. I'm pressing Shift to go straight out. A big bone. Now, these bones have several parts to them. I'm going to zoom in and kind of show you a little bit about them. If I press the Transform Bone tool, or T, again, I have several controls. I have this point here, which I can move the bone around. This is not animating, it's just setting up. This one will lengthen or shorten the bone. And if you click and drag inside of the bone at all, it'll rotate it. So it's a multi-control tool. The bone is also red, so I can select any bone by pressing the Select Bone tool, or B. So I can click on it, I can click away, I can click on it, press Escape to deselect it. I can click and drag and select multiple bones if I want to. Okay, we're going to add another bone. I'm right-clicking to pan. I'm going to add another bone. Pressing A again. This bone is active. It's red. That is important. If it's not red, select it, and then add a bone. I'm going to draw this bone all the way to the very top. At this point, I want to show you what parenting looks like. Parenting is exactly how it sounds. The parent is going to be controlling everything below it, or the parent controls the child. You've learned this in After Effects, but this is what it looks like. I press P for parent. This bone right here, the second bone, is a child of the first bone. Okay? You see this arrow pointing to the parent. And that's how this is going to work. We're going to set up a chain of bones that are parented. Okay? All right. Pressing B, I'm going to deselect. And the next bone I'm gonna make is actually going to be off of the head. I'm going to make a couple of special bones. Actually, I want to select this bone, maybe make it a little shorter. And now I'm going to add two more bones. I'm going to add one short one here and then a longer one here. Okay. If you press P again, you can see the parenting chain as it goes. I can select my bones, press P, and the arrows point to the parent. Okay. Next, we're going to add some bones for the arms and legs. Now, I've done this before, so I know kind of what to do, but sometimes you'll have to reparent things, which I'll teach you. So I'm going to select the middle bone, and I'm going to press A for Add Bone, and I'm going to add two bones. It's kind of hard to see because it's red against pink, but that's what we want to do. Pressing B, I'm going to select the middle bone again, and I'm going to add bones from there. If I don't reselect that bone, the parenting will be wrong. Okay, pressing P, making sure my arms are parented to that center. Pressing B, I'm going to select the main control bone, and I'm going to add some bones to the legs. 1, 2. I'm going to press B, select the control bone, add bones, 1, 2. All right. I'm going to deselect any bones. I'm going to add two new bones. These are these bones right here they're new to this version. All you have to do is click. Make sure no bones are red or selected, and you're just going to click. It's going to add a circular bone, basically. Press Escape and add a second one to the other leg, like that. Okay, so that's what your rig should look like at this point. If you press P, you can kind of see all the parenting. Next, we're going to attach the artwork to the bones. And when the bones move, the artwork's going to move. I want you to select the body layer and select this tool called Bind Layer. And all you do is select this tool, make sure you're on the right layer, and you click the bone that you want to attach it to. That's one of the easier methods of attaching. The next one is going to be a little different. These bones we can add something called bone dynamics to. I'm going to do a couple of special things to these bones. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. This bone right here, I don't want it to move at all. So I'm going to select the bone with my select bone tool, or B. I'm going to go right here, bone constraints. And I'm going to do something special to it. So it can't be rotated at all when I animate it. I'm going to click this button, angle constraints, and I'm going to enter 0 and 0. So there's no way that it can move on any angle. This bone is going to be a little different. I'm going to select that one, go to my bone constraints, and I'm going to hit bone dynamics. And I'm going to enter some numbers here that I think are right, but you can always tweak them. And we'll see what that does in a second. At this point, if I go to my character and I press S or this bone strength, there's these force fields that are around all my bones. And this is one way to animate, but I actually want to turn all this stuff off. So with bone strength selected, I'm going to press Control A, and I'm going to set my bone strength to 0. You can also click and drag to the left or right to see that, but I want to turn it all down. Hitting Escape, I'm actually going to turn off the bone strength of just this one layer and this layer here. Something like that. And we'll play with that later. Just those two. Okay. Next, we're going to do another type of binding. I see that I've lost my little bone here. I'm just going to add this one. Okay. Okay. All fixed. Okay. Next, we're going to bind some arms to their bones. And this is another method completely. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm actually going to turn off all my layers except that one layer. So I can just click and drag and hit the little eyeball there. Okay. Here's another method. I'm going to go to my layer. I'm going to press B and select my bone. And then I'm going to press this button here, Bind Points, or I. And I'm going to select these 2 points here, the top one and the middle one. And then I hit Enter. If it was easier to see, you'd see those 2 points get bigger, but it's kind of hard to see. And it's going to be a bunch of repetition. B for select bone, I, select point, Enter to bind it. If I go to my character and I start testing things out, that's starting to look pretty good. That actually moves correct. I'm going to go to my other arm and repeat the process. I'm going to turn this arm on. So again, B, make sure I'm on the right layer. B, I, select my points, Enter. B, I, select my points, Enter. I can go to my character, press Z, and things are moving well. I can tweak where the bones are as well, but we won't worry about that. Let's do the 2 legs. They're the same exact way. So a bunch of repetition. B, I, Enter. B, I, Enter. One more leg. Go to the right layer. So B, I, Enter. B, I, select and Enter. Okay. I'm going to turn my layers back on, and I'm going to give this a whirl and see how things are going. Always test things out, making sure things are moving correct. This one won't move at all for you, but the body should move. The legs should move. Okay, you can move this guy around. If you move it and it's out of place, you can just press forward and backward on the timeline, the left and right keys. That's one way to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set a special type of bone to these 2. They're going to be called target bones. I'm going to zoom into those. I'm going to name these bones. You can name bones too. I'm going to name this bone right up here. I'm going to call it right foot. Select this bone. Let's call that left foot. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this bone needs to target wherever this bone is. It's just going to follow it. Okay. So I select my bone, go to bone constraints, go to target, and find my right foot. A little tiny circle shows up showing you that you did it right. Just repeat, select this bone, go to target, left foot. Good. Okay, so what that does is when I move this, my bone follows it. So that's very important. It's important for walking, that sort of stuff. So it's following it around. Okay, the last thing we want to do is I want you to select all of these 4 leg bones, go up to bone constraints, and I want you to increase this number, IK stretching, to 1.5. What that does is when I move this, you can see that my bones actually stretch, but they stretch to a factor of 1.5, and at one point they will lift off from their points and actually leave the ground. This gives your character a little more bounciness. Okay, so you have rigged your character. He looks like he's ready to move. Nicely done. My character is actually moving right, but I did forget to do a couple of parts. So the eyes and the mouth are actually following the body because of the bone strength here, but that's not really correct. So I'm going to actually attach the mouth using the bind layer tool to this layer. The hair's okay, but the pupils and the eyes that are white need to be attached as well. So that's a little mistake I made. We're going to add a little bit of extra detail to this, and this is all kind of extra. We're going to add another mouth. We're going to talk about a switch layer, and then we're going to do some smart bones. And we're probably going to do a blink of the eye as well. So the first thing I want to do is make a different mouth. So what if we wanted a different style of mouth? So I'm going to make a new layer, new vector layer, and call this mouth O. I'm going to hide this old mouth. Get my shape tool, and I'm going to draw out a mouth. You can color it however you want to using Q. I actually want this to be filled with pink and no stroke. Just something simple like that. And you can put it wherever you like. Ooh. All right. So I have 2 mouths. I don't want them to be shown at the same time, so I'm going to make a new type of folder. So again, shift-click both mouths, right-click, group with selection. Name this mouths. This is just a folder, but once I right-click and convert to switch, this is a way to switch between mouths. Whichever one's on top is the one we're going to see initially, so I'm actually going to click and drag the grin to the top, and I'll show you how to switch these when we start animating. Okay, make sure you're saving your work. The second thing I want to do is make a blink. So I want my eyes that are white to also have a duplicate that are kind of darker orange. So I'm gonna duplicate this layer and go eyes blink Q. Select both by pressing Shift. I'm going to pick this color, but then I'm going to go in and kind of maybe make it like that. Okay, this section is going to get a little complex, but we can do it. Okay. I'm going to select all these layers, eyes pupil, eye blink, and eyes white. I'm going to make a new folder. Right-click, group with selection. I'm going to call this eyes. I'm then going to make another group inside of that group called, and I'm going to select pupils and whites, group with selection, and then I'm going to call this eyes open. So we have a layer that's a blink and a layer that's going to be open. We can't see it because it's below. I want this folder to be a switch layer. Right click, convert to switch. And I want to bring this above because that's what I want to see most of the time. So I can switch back and forth between open and closed. And then this is kind of another thing that we can do is we can move these pupils around and we can mask them by the other artwork. So this gets a little hairy, but it's advanced, so feel free to do it. I'm going to double click this layer. Brings up a whole box. You can do this with any layer. Go to masking and click hide all. And then OK. What happens in this folder is a couple things will show up. Each layer has a different icon. These pupils, if I was to grab them, they're now hiding behind the layer, basically using the whites of the eyes to be hidden. So that's pretty cool. Very easy to do. Watch this a few times and get it down. So we have a couple of switch layers now. We have a mouth switch layer and an eye switch layer now. The last step I'm going to do is really advanced, but I'd encourage you to try it. If I wanted to move the eyes around, I would have to go inside of my folder, inside of my eyes open folder, and then select all the points and then move them. Okay, it's possible to do, and we can animate any step of this. That's okay, no problem. But there's another thing you can do that's called a smart bone. So I'm going to go up to my character level and I'm going to deselect so there's no bone selected. I'm going to set a new bone, and I'm going to go up to my bone menu and say make smart bone dial, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to name this left/right. Unchecking separate actions for positive and negative. Basically, this is going to be my controller for the eyes to move left and right. Notice some things changed. I have a little pop-up window right here. There's something called the main line, which is our main timeline, and then there's sub-timelines. This is just for this little sub-action, so you'll see what happens in a second. Also, my timeline changes. It's blue, and I have some dots on there, some keyframes. Okay. So you're going to go to your layer that you want to control. You can do this with anything, but we're going to do this with the pupils. So go to your layer and go to frame 50. Frame 50 and press Control F. That is going to lock the artwork in place by entering basically a freeze frame. That's the middle. See where the bone is? It's straight up and down. Then I'm going to go to frame 1, and the bone is all the way to the right. So if I wanted this to work logically, I would move my artwork to the right. I'm going to press Control F as well to lock everything. I'm going to go over to frame 100 right there, and then I'm going to move my artwork to the left, pressing Control F. There you go. And here's how this works. If I double click the main line now, go up to my character, now this controls the eyes, left and right. You can also do an up and down. I'm going to do that really quick so you can see this again. Deselect any bones, add a bone, bone menu, make smart bone dial. I'm going to call this up, down. OK. I'm going to go to my layer, go to 50, press Command F so it's in the middle. Go to frame 1. You need to choose. Is this going to be up or down? I'm going to say this direction of my bone right here. It's going to be up. Press Command or Control F to lock it. Make sure you get all the keyframes in there. And then frame 100, I'm going to bring it down and press Command F again. Okay, go to your main line. Go to your character. And what's cool is you can blend smart bones so they can be left and right and up and down. So now you have these controllers that can move your eyes all over the place. So your eyes move, your character moves. We can blink. And we can also change the mouth. You can improve your character as much as you want, but this is the basics of rigging. And all the advanced stuff I'd encourage you to try if you have time. You did great. Make sure you watch this as much as you can to get it all down.